All right, President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy unable to agree on a promise to limit spending while raising the debt ceiling yesterday. The two walked away from that meeting with no movement on a deal, but said that they will meet again on Friday. Watch.
I just finished, I thought, a productive meeting with the congressional leadership about the path forward to make sure America does not default.
Unfortunately, in this meeting, I heard nothing new. I literally asked the president personally, do you believe there's any place in government we could find savings? I didn't find progress in this meeting.
Joining me right now is Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy. Peter, it's great to see you. You're doing such a great job, and everybody across the world is watching you. What's your take in terms of what you're hearing on the ground? Why is President Biden unwilling to even take on the conversation of limits to spending?
Well, so far, Maria, the Biden plan is to try to make McCarthy out to be some sort of a wild card. He's known Mitch McConnell for a long time. They have a pretty good working relationship, even appearing together at a bridge opening in Kentucky earlier this year. But he does not really know McCarthy. And so the reason that they're stuck is because President Biden says he's not going to tie the debt ceiling increase to big spending cuts. McCarthy says he needs cuts, but there are no specifics, at least not that have been presented to the White House. And so until the House leader, the House Speaker, can come here with specific things that he will cut that the White House can stomach, they are not going to get anywhere with this. And President Biden, it sounds like there's more optimism after this meeting, even though nothing new has happened. So he's sticking to his schedule. He's going to go to a fundraiser in New York tonight. And next week, he is going to be pretty unreachable for a good chunk of time as we get close to this deadline, with trips to Japan and Australia that last about a week.
That's
Maria.
Unbelievable. So there's absolutely nothing in the House package that the president could actually start considering, like, for example, clawing back the unused COVID-19 money. How about the idea that they're putting a 1% cap on spending for the next 10 years? What's wrong with some limitations in place? I think the American people are sick and tired of politics on everything.
The only thing in the House package that President Biden will publicly support right now is the part that raises the debt ceiling. Everything else he is not willing to go to, at least not yet.
Peter, how do you deal with sitting in that room with Jean-Pierre with all of the misinformation that she spews out every day? She said, like just yesterday, talking about the border, we're using all the tools available to us. What specific tools are they using, since we know that 6 million people have actually been apprehended on Joe Biden's watch and up to 2 million gotaways that we know of are on the books?
Well, as we understand it now, they are putting word down from the top down to these frontline CBP officers, trying to teach them a new rule. Basically, the way that things have been going for the last couple of years, that's not going to be the standard operating procedure anymore. Instead, you need to turn back anybody that does not request asylum in a different country. Now, the way that it's been working, people just show up and say, I'm here, and they get a form. Most folks just get a form, and then they're released until a court date, even though that takes several years, or they're released to an NGO. Now, anybody, their last-ditch way around Title 42 is just to tell people, if you don't stop in Mexico or stop somewhere else in Central America and give us a heads up that you're on the way, then we're going to turn you around. But President Biden yesterday, he said something extraordinary. We've gone from hearing that the Biden administration's immigration policy will be more humane. Last night, he said that, at least in the near term, the policy is going to result in a more chaotic system.
That's right.
This isn't something that has happened yet. It's not like they are reacting to a natural disaster or to something out of their control. This is a policy that they control. And so to call it chaotic is an extraordinary choice of words.
Yeah, especially since Mayorkas continues to say that the border is secure. How come the president says it's about to get chaotic? He actually took questions from reporters yesterday after the debt ceiling meeting, after the White House did not allow the New York Post into Monday's D.C. event. Yesterday's Post cover showing a room full of empty seats. The Washington Post editorial board also attacked Biden this week for not doing more solo press conferences, Peter. What are you hearing on the ground there about all of that?
There is a lot of frustration among just the group as a whole when they go a long time without giving us access to the president. But the way that they count it, And I know that White House officials know that this is a problem for a lot of the agencies covering the administration. The way that they count it, if he just stops for 1 second to give a one-word answer, like on his way to Marine One, then they count that as an interaction with the press. We do expect to see him walk into Marine One in about 2 hours. So maybe last night's Q&A with the small restricted pool that was allowed into the Roosevelt Room, maybe that's the start of something new as they launch this re-election, even though they have not had any campaign events yet and they hardly have any campaign staff yet. There is a campaign, and he's gonna. It seems like they know he's gonna have to be more interactive, talking more about the news of the day. And so maybe last night was the start of something new.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me, given the fact that Janet Yellen tells us the country runs out of money June 1st, and you've got this one meeting Friday, and then Biden is leaving town, going to Japan. Now is the time to go to Japan?
Well, and I think they're trying to make the point that he can be the president anywhere. But if the only time that they can meet over the course of several months is if the big four congressional leaders are all sitting in the Oval Office privately, it's going to be a real challenge to get anything done if the president is abroad in a time zone that's completely upside down and preoccupied with G7 meetings.
Right, exactly. And we'll see if there's an announcement on China, because I think somebody said that maybe he would do something on investing in Chinese companies while in Japan. We'll see about that. Italy and Giorgia Meloni certainly is showing Italy's independence by potentially getting out of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Peter, we're watching all of it. We so appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for being here.